And welcome back. Now, a little while ago, we spoke to the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, or Outa, about municipal councillors proposing a salary increase of 6.4% for the 2020-2021 financial year. Now, according to Outa, taxpayers are expected to pay more for electricity, water and other tariffs while already struggling financially as a result of COVID-19. And joining us now is Xolile George, who is the Chief Executive Officer for the South African Local Government Association, SALGA, to respond to some of the issues that Outa has raised. Mr. George, thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and good morning to all the Morning Live viewers.
So, can you just start by giving us clarity regarding the proposal from municipalities for these salary increases for councillors for the 2020-2021 financial year?
No, thank you very much, Sakina. I think firstly, I should welcome the opportunity to clarify and perhaps put into context some of the issues that we regard as local government as quite crucial given the challenges of the time. We are all facing a very difficult moment in terms of COVID-19. And most of the time, as we all know, the realities of COVID-19 get practical expression on local government. It is local government that you and me will see every day, a person who is homeless, a person where in terms of the regulations of COVID-19, we must find a shelter as municipality for. Not only find a shelter, also provide food and all other necessities that provides for human dignity. It is us at local government that when we have regulations that says everyone must provide sanitation, wash your hands, we get exposed in terms of the contradictions of our country, where we all know that some of us are privileged enough to have access to water, we have access to a shower, we have access to a house in these cold, difficult conditions. So it is only at local government where those issues of inequality, poverty and unemployment get practical expressions. And we all have to play our role in ensuring that the realities of COVID-19 are equally taken serious by all of us as spheres of government. But I would like to first point out few issues, Sakina, which I regard as quite unfortunate because they come across quite clearly as falsehoods. Falsehoods that are propagated by Outa, just as we have all heard. Firstly, the point of 6.4%. Councillors are not going to receive a 6.4% increase. Neither have they asked for 6.4%, neither have they budgeted for 6.4%. Secondly, the second falsehood is that all our municipalities across the country are busy passing budget to award themselves salary increases. To the contrary, Sakina, and to all South Africans, no municipality determines its own salary. No municipality determines the increase of any office officials from the cleaner up to the municipal manager. That's the second falsehood, that South Africans should not be hoodwinked into believing that there is such a spate of misgovernance happening in our municipalities because there are no rules of the games. To the contrary, local government is one of the most regulated spheres. This is the fact about the salary increases. All salary increases of councillors, members of parliament, MPLs, judges, magistrates, right up until the prosecutor in our country are determined by a body that is constitutionally established in the Republic. It's called the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers Commission. It independently determines what must be given to the President of the Republic up to a ward council, same as a judge, same as a magistrate. Now, to say that there is now a new discovery by Outa that they have just stumbled upon municipalities acting recklessly during COVID is quite unfortunate for South Africans. So the determination that has been issued for councillors across the country, we have 10,000 councillors in the country, all of them in terms of the public service, the remuneration guidelines that have been issued by that independent body and communicated to municipalities by the relevant minister that communicates that it is 4%. It is 4% that is budgeted. And in terms of our system of government in our country, Sakina, No councillor in any province may be granted that unless there is a concurrence of a member of the Provincial Executive Committee, in that case, an MEC response. So the system has got sufficient checks and balances so that no one can act recklessly. In respect of municipal officials, we have got what we call collective bargaining, where municipal employees up to those that are less than managerial echelon, which we currently call Section 56, are determined through a bargaining council. And that is not determined during the era of COVID. It has been determined 3 years ago in 2015, July. It will run up until this period. So it's a 3-year cycle of annual increases. And currently, we are negotiating as we speak today to look at what we must do in that bargaining council to persuade the parties to accommodate the reality of COVID on that matter. In respect of councillors, councillors have taken decisions across the country to respond to the call of the President of the Republic to donate their 3-month salary increase or their own salaries. And we are quite pleased as SALGA that all councillors have responded positively to this call to even establish what we call municipal solidarity funds to make sure that whatever limited amount they get, because they are the lowest paid public servants in the country in terms of public representatives, they are the lowest paid. That's why only themselves were given an increase of 4%. So I thought, let me clear those. For senior management, again, a gazette gets issued publicly. It's not determined by municipalities, and it issues an upper guideline around that. The issue of the property rates that Outa is raising, municipalities across the country, they function on a fiscal policy framework prescribed for our country. It is the only sphere that whose function can only exist like you and me staying in an estate, if we happen to be privileged to stay in such gated communities, or you stay in a township, or you stay in a suburb, or you stay in a rural village. Any contribution that gets to municipality, the determination is that 70% plus comes from me and you as a taxpayer. It's either you pay for rates, you pay for electricity, you pay for water, you pay for sewage charges, and. And for those communities who are quite unfortunate because of our realities, we know that municipalities by law have what we call indigent policies, Sakina. We have about 19.5 million South Africans who every day receive what we call rebates, either on property taxes that are below a certain threshold, or they receive what we all know a basket of social services, which is free electricity up to 50 kilowatts. Other municipalities are providing 100 kilowatts plus, many of our metros. Secondly, 6 kilowatts for water, 6 kiloliters for water rather. Other municipalities are providing 10 kilo within their own affordability means. So every day, South Africans will receive. So what will COVID do, Sakina? Without defending anything, COVID is exposing that more and more South Africans are going to join the ranks of unemployed. So municipalities, in terms of their budget framework, which they are currently busy with, they are going to accommodate more growth in that area. So we must ask a fundamental question to Outa. When we say freeze any increase on water, freeze any increase on electricity, freeze any increase on property rates, you must also proceed accordingly and answer the question, where will that money come from? The fiscus of our country has not only declined, it has evaporated completely. We've seen what the World Bank said, and the IMF, and our Reserve Bank. So within the realm of the limited measures we have, we've got to find ways in which we can still allow our municipalities to function. And secondly, Sakina, another falsehood. Municipalities approve their own budget. They must still go to National Treasury, go to Parliament. We have seen our metros, in particular district municipalities. SALGA has gone to Parliament to represent all municipalities. Our projections is that 35 to 45% of our municipalities are already, during COVID, losing a lot of payment, precisely because people are unemployed, industries are shedding. So we're projecting that many of our municipalities in their budget framework must accommodate this new reality that is going to hit hard at municipalities. But for any call, Sakina, that says to the country, please boycott. There is a state of lawlessness in the country, and therefore all we are doing is to say that person in the shelter who's unemployed, that person who's receiving that must now start not receiving almost anything from the municipality. That person who's homeless, who's being quarantined, is also in that space. So we have a fundamental problem if we have falsehoods propagated that there's just a spate of lawlessness. Municipalities have been discovered by Outa increasing budgets without the realm of public participation that we know Outa can participate. Every South African We have not suspended public participation in any budget and IDPs, and we welcome any criticism that is fair. But when it is unfounded, I think we take quite exception on that.
All right. Let me pulse you, Mr. George, on SALGA's views, especially with regard to the ethical and moral considerations. One of their arguments is, of course, that dozens of South Africans have lost their livelihoods or have had to take pay cuts during the lockdown, and you speak to that. And he says, does Wayne Duvenage, it's an insult for councillors to request increases in salaries, knowing what the objective realities are and what people are currently struggling with on the ground. So what is SALGA's view on that?
I thought I quite answered that, Sakina. Maybe let me clarify again.
From a moral and an ethical perspective,
Yes,
how does SALGA respond to that?
I understand that, Sakina. I said earlier on, there is no municipal that has asked for an increase. Those increases are determined at a level that is independent and it is applicable to all public representatives. We have then said to councillors, a council will sit, look at the gazette that has been provided, and it provides an upper limit of 4% for this current financial year for public representatives. And that has been communicated to local government, not local government asking. It's not the other way around. And the reality is that all of us, we must take a deep reflection on that. Many of our councillors have taken that, and we have seen how they have made a contribution by responding to the clarion call of the president to donate and make other measures to make sure that we also identify quite expectedly with what society is going through, the pain that our people are going through in terms of unemployment, losing livelihood. And when they do the budget, they have to take into account that affordability is one of the primary drivers of our budgeting system in local. So it doesn't help whether you budget for 10%. It's a budget. It's not what is realistically going to be collected. So all municipalities have got a guideline that work in, and once they have passed their budget, they still go to a national fiscal system that screens all of those, and we have accountability in Parliament. So the application of the moral expectation to local government, provincial, national, and all of us as society, including private sector, is applicable across the board. And we're quite happy that all councillors are exercising that expectation.
The other point that Outa makes, and you alluded to the fact that the municipal coffers are constrained and the budgets are limited. So where does the money come from? Because Outa says that the municipalities effectively in approving these budgets would be spending money that they actually don't have.
There is something called a budget, Sakina. A budget is your realistic expectation of the income you are likely to realize as per your drivers of your revenue mix. Secondly, there is what we call expenditure framework. So in terms of our fiscal policy system in the country, that applies also in local government. We have what we call MTREF, medium-term revenue and expenditure framework. We then have to link that to what we call SDBIP, Service Delivery Budget and Implementation Plan. That's when municipalities go to committees and ask, do you need water? Do you need electricity? Do you need roads? So you balance those two. So realistically, you look at your projections of your previous year collection, and then you factor that in your new budget. So the budget of municipalities that they are currently busy with will apply from July 1. So if you look at when COVID was declared a national calamity, it was declared on the 15th of March. So realistically, when the president declared lockdown on the 29th of March, you then have a window to look at that between 29 March and 30th, when we had level 5 lockdown, level 4, level 3 today, right up until end of June. So your picture realistically will show you what we call projections in budgeting. So what you then factor in to say, if I'm suffering knockdown on property rates, on water, electricity, so it means my collection levels are going to be flowing in this trajectory. So therefore, some of the budget limitations I have, I've got to be more efficient. I've got to be more allocative in our resources to target areas that I need and make sure that realistically we cut down our expenditure projections to realistic measures that take into account the declining levels of our economy. So there is no spate of recklessness that is running across that even a municipality would work without being reined by our inter-provincial management of finances, the national management of finances, and so on. So we're quite happy that the system is quite robust enough to self-correct. And in this case of budgeting, we identify with what is happening in the country. We are on the side of the poor as local government, and will continue to do so. And I think bodies like Outa must play their part to make sure that they illuminate the knowledge of South Africans and make sure that the messaging that goes out there is equally not reckless to try and propagate falsehoods in South Africans.
So on average, what is the collection rate for municipalities in South Africa?
It ranges for metropolitan municipalities. The last report, what we call Section 71 report issued by March by National Treasury 2020, it shows for metropolitan municipalities they are collecting anything between 91% to 99%. Secondary cities, they are collecting anything between 86 and 92%. And less municipalities that are more like local municipalities, their projections and their collection average ratios, they range at anything between 60 to 89%. And that picture is in areas where there are less economic opportunities that are happening in terms of industrial, commercial, and residential spaces in our municipalities. So those realities are going to be visited more on municipalities that are on a revenue basis. And our fiscal system has got a compensatory model that looks into account in terms of what we call, Sakina, intergovernmental transfers to make sure that less privileged municipalities from a revenue base receive support measures. So all of those factors are part of a fairly robust fiscal framework of our country, of which municipalities are part of, and they are audited every year to make sure that no one can act recklessly outside the system, as Outa seems to propagate South Africans.
And just a quick one, in terms of increases in tariffs, what can South Africans expect?
South Africans, they can expect anything. Let's use electricity, Sakina, as an example. Electricity is a regulated a good in South Africa. It is independent regulated by what the body called NERSA. So the only primary producer of energy that we buy as local government is Eskom. So we have got about 181 licensed distributors in the name of municipalities out of 257 in our country. So all of them, whatever increase they receive in terms of the passage from Eskom as determined by NERSA, let's say Eskom is given 7.4%. So a municipality will then buy from Eskom in terms of bulk rate, which is 7.1%, and in terms of the tariffs that NERSA also approves for the municipality, which Outa will not tell South Africans that municipalities will not pass 8% all out of their own frolic. They receive from NERSA, and it takes into account maintenance of that infrastructure, the people employed in that area, the equitable distribution of energy to less privileged communities, and NERSA is the approver of that. So you can expect whatever that's been given to Eskom to be in the range just above that increase to anything that is above the norm that NERSA has approved. Same for water boards. We buy as municipalities at a bulk rate determined by the Department of Water to water boards that sell. So a Joburg will buy from Rainwater, let's say at 6%, and Joburg provide water to all areas in its jurisdiction. It has got 109 wards. So most of those wards are underprivileged wards. So then the department will approve that rate. Municipalities will approve what must be included, including maintenance of water, including water losses, uneconomical water, non-revenue water, what we call, and. So none of these issues, including property rates, there's a certain standards which we set to municipalities. You can't pass property rates beyond a certain increase norm. So if it's anything between 4 to 6%, including rebates that, Sakina, are passed to certain households of a certain value, so that people don't even pay that. And we assume that more of industries that are hard knocked by COVID are going to result in municipalities having to increase their own social basket to increase even more than the 19 million South Africans who currently receive free service from municipalities. We project that they are likely to increase probably by anything up to 5 million. So we must then answer the question, where will that money come from? If we say to municipalities, freeze everything, Outa is saying freeze everything, I think we find it quite irresponsible to have such kind of utterances.
We well into news time. Thanks so much for your time this morning, Xolile George, the CEO of SALGA, responding to our interview with Outa earlier, who stated that it is unfair for municipal councillors to propose salary increases while ordinary South Africans are struggling financially, especially amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. And let's carry on with the news. Leanne standing by.